Good morning, good evening to you wherever you're tuning in around the world for this latest Reuters Events Supply Chain webinar. Today, we'll be discussing balancing cost, customer centricity, and sustainability in customer fulfillment. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce each of the panelists, starting off with Andres. Can you please introduce yourself and your organization to the audience, please?
Yeah, thank you, Nick, and it's great to be here. I am Andres Mendoza Pina. I am a partner in Kearney's transportation and logistics practice. Kearney is an almost 100-year-old consulting firm headquartered in Chicago with presence in more than 40 countries around the world. Strategic operations in general and supply chain in particular is one of our areas of strong expertise. And we have a dedicated practice focused on helping shippers improve their supply chains. And then my team works with 3PLs, carriers, and logistics service providers to help them better serve shippers and consumers.
Perfect. Thanks for joining us, Andres. And next up, Jasmine, can you introduce yourself and your organization to the audience, please?
Hi, good morning. No, I think it's good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. It's great to be here at the panel here with all this excitement that we're going to be sharing with you here. My name is Jasmine Lombardi, Chief Customer Officer at Locus Robotics. Locus is a industry's leading AMR technology, and we have actually deployed our robots for over 100 customers at over 250 sites globally. We are an enterprise-proven robotics solution that helps drive optimization and efficiency throughout the entire supply chain, end-to-end for our customers, with different fleets of robots to support different multiple use cases, and then be able to provide valuable insights using data, and to also support sustainable best practices while delivering very good productivity results.
Perfect. Thanks for joining us, Jasmine. And next up, Jeff, if you can introduce yourself as well, please.
Happy to do it. Thanks, Nick. My name is Jeff Wolpov, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Ryder e-commerce. Ryder is a 90-year-old business, $12.5 billion public company, focused on truck leasing, rentals, maintenance, as well as supply chain services. Our group runs e-commerce, omnichannel fulfillment, does a lot of retail fulfillment as well within the Ryder network. Our group is also responsible for about 10 million square feet of warehouse space around the country, servicing some of the major retailers, e-commerce providers, as well as wholesale manufacturers today in the U.S.
Perfect. Thanks for joining us, Jeff. And last but not least, Michael, can you introduce yourself as well, please?
Hi, I'm Michael Tremblay. I'm the CIO and SVP of Operations at AKA Brands. We're a portfolio company of next generation fashion brands that's consumer obsessed and delivering them the great quality experience and modern fashions. We operate globally, and we're a publicly traded company on the New York Stock Exchange.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Michael. So kicking off the conversation with a nice holistic question for you, Andres. What are you currently seeing with regards to the current landscape of fulfillment operations with respect to cost, customer centricity, and sustainability?
Yeah, happy to get us started based on our recent experience working in this space. And let's start with the customer, right, as we always should. So look, in terms of customer expectations, continues to increase, right, and are expected to continue to evolve. And to put things in perspective, back in 2015, 2 out of 3 online shoppers could consider 3-4 days delivery as quick, right? Whereas nowadays, more than 90% interpret rapid delivery as same day, right? But I think it's important to realize that there is no one-size-fits-all answer. And some companies are making it harder on themselves than they really should by following a Me Too strategy, trying to follow the leader, rather than really understanding their customers and their customer needs. For example, is it really necessary to offer next day shipping for chicken coops? Well, in some cases, potentially yes, but offering it as a standard delivery method adds significant cost to the operation, right? So in terms of customer centricity, we see as the paramount priority: understand your customers, segment your customer, your products, and from there derive the right customer-centric strategy. Moving on to cost, right? And cost is top of mind for everybody today. And we have been talking about inflation and labor shortages for several months now. And while the Fed's tightening cycle appears to be kind of slowing down the rate of inflation, the unemployment rate remains stubbornly low, right? And it's not only labor. When you look at the cost of warehousing space, they continue to put pressure on margins. The average price per square feet increased by 19% from 2021 to 2022, right? But in general, we see labor as the main concern, and that's why we are observing that automation is gaining traction. I'm sure we're going to talk about automation at length today. Something important to be mindful around automation, that is not about replacing humans, or at least not typically about replacing humans. It's about enabling the workers to be more productive. So we also see success on the companies that are rethinking their employee value proposition. What is the nature of the work? What is the culture, the relationships that exist in the floor? Are there development opportunities, cross-training, right? And this focus on the employee value proposition also translates in productivity increases and obviously in reduction of attrition. Lastly, on sustainability, look, undeniably, logistics operations provide a unique opportunity to decrease greenhouse emissions. So it's not a surprise that global leaders like Apple, Procter & Gamble, they are focusing on supply chain as a priority for their environmental commitments. And we see significant momentum on the sustainability improvements that also leads to cost efficiencies. So let me stop there, Nick, and allow other of the panelists to opine as well.
No, definitely. I'd love to hear your perspective, Jeff, on the kind of overview that Andres just provided us.
Yeah, I do agree with Andres. I do think he's spot on. It is an interesting and a challenging market today. We are seeing rising costs. We are still experiencing some difficulty finding workers. We're seeing rents going up. We're seeing wages go up. And we are facing some economic headwinds when it comes to retail. So now it's always a good time to try to figure out how to do more with less. But now it's a great time. It's actually an imperative. And so it's not just automation. It could be simple mechanization. It could be system enhancements. We have to collectively find a way to do more with less. Find a way to eliminate touches, to shorten pick path. And it's a combination of all of these with a focus on a return on the investment. It's got to be a relatively short-term return on that investment. And it absolutely is not about replacing people. It's about supplementing them. It's about making people more efficient and more effective. And together with all of this, this is the opportunity that we all have to gain productivity, is to utilize some sort of automation, mechanization, or system enhancement to continue to do more with less.
Definitely, no, that makes a lot of sense. And Michael, just bringing yourself in here just to provide, I guess, the retail and the brand's perspective. Just from your perspective, we see obviously a lot of seasonality with regards to many supply chains and peak periods where things are particularly difficult or demand is particularly high. Can you just explain how you see companies baking in the ability to scale up and scale down when demand can be volatile and quite unpredictable?
Sure. So, definitely, retailers like us see seasonal, peaks and troughs. And, we really done a few things, I think, that allow us to operate efficiently in that. One, which is really a company-wide really focus on forecasting, right? Our ability to manage the challenges we've talked about, whether it be the labor costs or just general rising costs, starts with us really having better predictability on what's going to happen and plan accordingly, and really take a holistic approach to forecasting. That's then allowed us to really have much more responsive in season ability to flex labor and robotics even up and down. So, in our work we've done with, the Ryder team and even Locus is, we're able to revise our essentially our capacity needs on a daily basis with 24 to 48 hour responsiveness based on the current trend. So as we get even more, volatile in some cases based, whether it be promotions or seasonality, we continue to operationalize the entire end-to-end process of forecasting and planning accordingly. And we have found great success, allowing us to really, through the past several holidays or big promotions we have, be able to still meet our customer SLA of filling inside of 24 hours or same day if you're ordering by, noon or 2 p.m., depending on our brand and our service levels. So, it's one of those things that even despite the challenges, there are, fundamental practices and ways of us overcoming those. And I think we've done a good job and continue to do that because we really want to put the customer first and deliver a great experience and normalize all these other factors that are a challenge for us to solve.
Definitely. No, it's great to hear the retailer's perspective on that. Jasmine, I'd love to hear how you see this challenge of kind of scaling up and scaling down when demand is unpredictable.
Yeah, so at Locus Robotics, we have a very unique model, which we call Robot as a Service. In short, we call RaaS. So effectively, our customers don't own the robots. They RaaS, we provide a service to them. Now that comes with a lot of advantages to that. In a seasonal thing, and I know that Jeff and Michael has referred to the ability to just simply add robots during the peak season. And when the demand comes down after peak, they return the robots to us. So we are here to help them flex and scale accordingly. Now, there's a few points that all the panelists have kind of talked about is the costs that are increasing, labor shortages, and every penny counts from their perspective, from a fulfillment perspective. And on top of that, customers' expectations are growing, right? They expect prompt delivery and so on. With all those things, it becomes difficult because you're pulled in many different directions as well. And Locus, we have the ability to help our customers because of peak accuracy, because we are able to fulfill faster with automation. That helps bring down the cost itself because now you can actually even train the workers that you get a lot faster. That is still reducing the cost. And with the increased accuracy itself, actually helps with less returns. And I know a lot of e-commerce company has a high percentage of return, sometimes ranging could be about 30%. So if we can help improve those pick accuracy itself, there's less of a return that's coming back. And that actually helps with sustainability as well. Now, one of the other things talking about sustainability too is that, since we have a RaaS program, we have programs that actually would recycle or rather refurbish and repurpose the robots if there's something wrong with them. So we don't just simply just dump them aside. So I think that's a really good thing. Now, increase of productivity itself, we have demonstrated that Locus has increased productivity to 2 to 3x and able to reduce cycle time of fulfillment by 50%. Now, all this is going to help increase the customer satisfaction as well. One quick thing that I know, Jeff, you mentioned about, besides automation, you also look at systems, enhancements, and so on. One of the things in Locus that I'm really proud of my team is that it's not about automating what you do now, but it's about automating with improvements. We look at the processes, we collaborate with our customers, and we partner with them to look at the holistic picture in terms of what we need to do from an automation, but also process improvement and systems improvement as well.
Definitely. Jeff, did you want to add to what Jasmine just said?
Yeah, I do think she brings up some really good points. And managing a fast-growing e-commerce type business does bring you volatility. You don't have the transparency to be able to plan accordingly. So it does help to have multiple accounts in the building where you can share resources, buildings that are campuses where you can move folks from facility to facility, or just a geographic region where you're really strong, where you can move resources around. Very difficult today to build that church for Easter Sunday. Nobody can support that kind of excess capacity. So being flexible, being nimble, having the ability to use resources amongst multiple accounts certainly helps with some of that volatility.
Definitely. Andres, I guess just bringing yourself back into the conversation from something that you mentioned earlier around the link between cost reduction and sustainability. Can you just delve a little bit deeper on how you're seeing companies drive efficiency and the synergies with that and sustainability?
Yeah, absolutely, Nick. And look, you can think of it in different dimensions, right? So at the network level, you can look at it kind of within the four walls, right? And perhaps some thoughts at the network level to get the dialogue started. So look, focusing on the footprint and location of the entire network, right, from manufacturing, distribution centers, warehouses, of course, has a significant impact on sustainability, reducing the distant travel, and some specific levers that we have seen our clients to apply successfully. Once they have the network already set, optimization of pickup and delivery routing sequence, that can increase the stops per on-road hour and drive a reduction on 4 to 8% of the pickup and delivery cost, and of course with less mile travel, a significant reduction in emissions. That also translates in maximization of the delivery density, increasing the number of shipments per stop, and that could lead up to 5% of reduction in pickup and delivery costs, and once again a positive impact on emissions. And then looking at the network beyond the pickup and delivery route, but looking at the connection between the nodes in the network, right? So that will be the line haul transportation, and focusing on maximizing the capacity utilization in line haul moves can drive a reduction of around 10 to 15% in line haul cost, and of course, the lower the empty miles and the more that the utilization of that capacity increases, the greater the impact on the reduction of emissions. So, and then within the four walls, we see three areas of improvement. So the first one is reduction of waste. The second one is the reduction in the amount of energy consumed. And the third one is still some reduction of emissions, right, particularly on the forklifts. And some quick points on those three areas. On reduction of waste, right, the minimization of slow-moving and obsolete inventory is one of the best ways to improve efficiency and have a positive impact on the environment. And I think Michael already mentioned about forecasting accuracy as a key lever. But it's not only forecasting accuracy, but it's also being proactive on moving that inventory and identifying when the inventory is 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, not waiting until it becomes obsolete, but working closely with the commercial teams to make sure that can be sold either through sales or to the secondary markets or being even reworked, right? Another lever to reduce waste is on packaging, and these are the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, recycle, right? That's a very traditional approach to reduce packaging waste. Then on the reduction of energy consumed, we see this strong trend on green warehouses maximizing the utilization of natural light. But even in the traditional environments, a simple effort to ensure that LED lighting is prevalent can drive benefits. Efficient HVAC systems can drive benefits, and even exploring some renewable energy solutions like solar panels, right? So those are some of the levers that we are seeing in the market. And then lastly, on emissions inside the 4 walls, in Europe is fairly prevalent, the use of electric forklifts. in the US, the adoption is a bit behind. There are some limitations for 3 shifts operations, right? But even with the traditional forklifts, optimizing the flow within the warehouse can help to reduce emissions in the operation.
Definitely, no, that was very thorough and touched on many different points across fulfillment networks. Michael, I'd love to hear your perspective, adding to what Andres says, some of the ways that you can achieve sustainability and efficiency gains.
Yeah, so I think, some of the big things for us, obviously, on the brand side has obviously been about, the sourcing of the goods and the design of the goods. And, one of our brands, Princess Polly, has taken on, a sustainable line, creating its own proprietary fabric to reduce its carbon footprint. And also, it's not just about us as a business and a priority that we have as a corporation. Obviously, it's a key priority for our customers. Our customers are millennials and Gen Zs. This has, over the past, decade, continued to rise as their top priority, depending on the year. And so for them, it's been important to align themselves with, brands that share the same values. So for us, it's been a corporate priority. It's also a customer priority. So we have continued to move more and more of our assortment design and sourcing with these proprietary fabrics that have lower impact. We're seeing great traction on it. And we've taken an approach that, this is going to be part of our core DNA across our brands. We don't do discriminatory pricing. These are the same prices of other goods versus some brands where they try to make it a premium good. So, again, we think it's the right thing to do. It's our customers' priority. We're getting a lot of great traction. And, that's one of the big ways, obviously. The second part is, related to things of the nature that's already been discussed around really reducing the length traveled of the goods. So all the carbon emissions through the transportation side, and then also a lot of packaging. We continue to look at all the recyclable, the sustainable packaging. So really kind of doing all the various parts along the way. But yeah, it's both a corporate priority and a customer priority. And it just makes good business sense, and we're getting good traction.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Michael. Jeff, I'd love to hear your perspective to provide, I guess, the angle that logistics service providers are seeing when it comes to sustainability.
Sure. It is becoming an imperative to our customers. There's some normal blocking and tackling that we're doing, whether it's recycling corrugated solar panels on a vast majority of our facilities, innovative recyclable outbound packaging, trying to look at kind of cutting edge. What can we do? How can we consolidate shipments so it's less shipments going out to the consumer? At Ryder, we also have a company called Ryder Ventures, and where we make investments in kind of ecosystem kind of support companies that support our business and our customers' businesses. One of those companies that we've partnered with is a company called EcoCart, that we now offer services to our customers that either they can pay or the consumer can pay to replace the carbon footprint that was used to manufacture those goods. So it is an imperative. We are working collaboratively with our vendors and with our customers to listen, to make sure that their customers are heard, and that we are providing solutions that work for everybody.
Perfect. So Jasmine, just bringing yourself into the conversation, coming back to something you mentioned earlier around returns. Can you explain how you're seeing, the returns challenge when it comes to retailers, and how you're seeing those companies balance cost, sustainability, and customer experience when it comes to returns?
Yeah, I think in terms of returns, a lot of e-commerce companies do have, as I said earlier, 20-30% of the returns itself. I mean, that can create a fair amount of, carbon footprint to support that. So with Locus itself, we have applications, we have use case to be able to actually, help put the return products back into product locations. We utilize the robots to be able to do that, so that you don't necessarily need to use label to package those things up to go there, because the bots will be there. And it's this whole thing where there is the interleaving activities, so you can have the associates in the aisles that are doing picking with the robots to be able to pick with the robots by returning back to product locations as well. Also, as well as, any form of replenishment to the product locations. This actually helps optimize the density of the bots in the area where you can do the bots that can do picking as well as put away or returns and so on, help you actually with the cost as well, and make everybody more efficient. Now, the other aspects of sustainability here, as I mentioned earlier on, we have a very corporate focus. It is a priority at Locus on ESG, sustainability being one of them. And we have a program where it's the 3 R's. I know Andrea's mentioned the R's, the reductions and so on. Well, we have our 3 R's. We recycle, we refurbished, and we repurposed. And this actually allow us to actually, be able to use the bots for many years to come, and not have to recycle the bots at all. If there is anything that we need to recycle, we make sure that it does support the government and the regulations of how we go about recycling them. So that is very sustainable. As a matter of fact, one of the things that we do is that if there's any parts that we don't necessarily use, we will actually donate to schools around the Boston area, things like charging cables and so on to schools. Now, one of the things that I know the team kind of mentioned here is that about packaging. We have many customers that we work with where we interface and partner with some companies like, Pack Size and alike, where they actually are able to produce boxes to the size of the products that you are shipping, right? And this actually helps reduce the amount of trucks or space for transportation and making it more efficient. And in that particular case, you are not necessarily shipping air. From that perspective, it helps the customer actually reduce the cost because there's less of truck space that you use. We work with different healthcare providers where they need to replenish hospital supply rooms and so on. At the same time, we also help, even though it's those flip top cartons itself, we help and work with our customers to ensure that products are being placed into those flip top instead of boxes, right? Because it is reusable and optimize that for truck routings and so on. So I think that's an important, and I think Jeff, you mentioned about consolidating shipping as well. We interfaced with different WMS systems where there's the ability for people who place multiple orders and the system is aware that it's actually going to the same person, then we are able to package them up accordingly rather than having to do, different packaging or different routes or different shipping elements as well.
Definitely. Mike, would love to hear your perspective just to Jasmine's points there around kind of returns and how you guys are tackling that issue.
Sure. Yeah. So obviously, this has been a fairly large change in the retail industry, and especially in apparel that tends to have some of the higher return rates. And really, as the consumers have changed the channels, it's become really important for us to really first and foremost, deliver a great customer experience. We obviously don't have the same benefits and structural advantages that the physical retail channel has online. So we first focus on delivering a great customer experience, making it easy. And that really is all the way from the site and the mobile experience to also then, on the returns, facilitation, leveraging, various techniques to avoid having to print labels with QR code scans, having drop-off locations. So again, from the first customer standpoint, making it easy as possible. Then kind of on the back end for us, it's really about then, optimizing the transportation, like I mentioned, leveraging the best partners that help us facilitate, we try to leverage as much consolidation as we can, again, both efficient on the sustainability side, but also on the cost side. We also then really look at, the recovery process. So once the goods come into the facility, how do we get the highest recovery rate? And we've done a variety of things to have that recovery improve, whether it's through better lighting, better procedures around, cleaning the goods, using, from UV filters and desanitizers and all sorts of things, especially in apparel. So we've really kind of continued to improve that, and we feel really good about that recovery, so that the stock go back into the inventory goes back into stock and gets sold eventually. And then lastly, we really commit to determining the drivers of the returns, then going back upstream and driving the prevention to it. Was it, a design, a sizing? Was it the content? So we've done a lot of things to really create a complete loop on the returns, data. So we make a lot of adjustments, including, having fit guides, fit tools on the sites. We then kind of also increase the content, do returns, do a variety of things to try to prevent the return. So, I think there's a 360 view to this, but it's also, I think, something ripe for innovation in the future. I think, the consumer behavior will only continue around using kind of one of the things that people say is the bedroom as the next fit room. So we just have to continue to get better at it. It's not about, full prevention. It will continue. So we just got to get better at it.
Definitely. No, it makes a lot of sense. Jeff, I'd love to hear your perspective on, I guess, how you're helping the likes of Michael with his operation when it comes to returns and other organizations when it comes to returns challenges.
Sure. And I do think Michael was spot on. I do think it should start with prevention. The more work you can do up front to try to eliminate in the back, I think the better off the business is. But returns are now a reality, especially in a growing, fast-growing e-commerce world. And it is a challenging situation. It is the ugly stuff. It's individual units, lots of SKUs that are now all over the country. And so you're walking a fine line between kind of speed to stock and then efficiency. And so you're seeing more and more drop-off centers pop up today, where making it easier, but also making it easier to consolidate those shipments. Instead of having one piece in a box go from New Jersey to California, you can now have a drop-off center where you can consolidate those shipments and then get them in bulk back to the point of origin. That's a big part. Being able to handle it quickly, maybe take these return centers and turn them into forward logistics centers. So if you do have a return center that's located closer to the consumer, being able to have that as the first staging area where you can do your sort, your segregation, potentially even using that center as a forward logistics where you can just now populate the inventory and allow the consumer to ship directly from that spot to eliminate that transit back to the point of origin. That's an advantage. Being able to potentially liquidate inventory at that logistics center, maybe on these kind of end of seasons, one-offs, where you don't necessarily have a lot of depth in SKU, where again, you don't have to handle again, turning your first loss into your best loss. Return logistics is only going to get bigger. It's only going to play a more important role. It's something that most leaders in supply chain are investigating. Doing their analysis now, trying to figure out how we can come up with a better mousetrap that can really help benefit the consumer as well as make financial sense to the manufacturer and the retailer.
No, definitely, it's certainly a growing area. Before we move on, I'd love to hear, Andres, your perspective. I mean, I think we pretty much covered everything when it comes to returns, but did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to share some stats that I found incredible, right? So I think Jasmine mentioned that in apparel, the return rate could be more than 20%, and I think in some categories it could be up to 30%. And Michael, you might be living and breathing that every day. But when you look at the average, right? So I think the latest stats shows that around 70% of all purchases, right, are returned, and the NRF estimates that the value of the return merchandise in 2022 was more than $800 billion. This is only in the US, and that's more than the GDP of Poland or Sweden, right? And when you think that the penetration of e-commerce is still around 20% only, even though the acceleration that we experienced during COVID, we are at around 20% of all retail sales being done online. You can just start connecting the dots, and as Jeff was saying, this is a major challenge, right? And if anything, it's going to become even more relevant. And therefore, something that Michael mentioned that I just wanted to stress, Nick, which is looking at returns not as an afterthought or only a problem to deal, but an opportunity to learn and improve, right? And you can think about opportunities to improve product design if the returns are driven by a piece of the clothing that breaks, that falls apart, or it could be an opportunity to improve your sourcing strategy if the problems are typically coming from one of the vendors in Asia, right? And even it could be an opportunity to improve your logistics setup, right? If some of these returns are driven by products being shipped later than promised to the customer, right? So thinking of returns as a learning opportunity, we see that differentiates the leading organizations from those that are struggling and trying to catch up.
Definitely, no, 100%. This is a very fast-moving area. Jasmine, do you have any other points you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I think one of the things here is, when there is a challenge, we always want to do some root cause analysis to figure out why, right? Why a higher return rate? So one of the reports out there by supply chain executive, they found that 41% of the respondents return an item because they didn't get the right product. Could be incorrect size, incorrect color, or just the wrong items itself. And I think that's why picking accuracy is important, to be able to at least address one of the root cause of return. And, working with our customers as we partner with them, we have reports back around a major retailer have actually reduced the error rates by 77%. And one of the other healthcare provider has actually increased the accuracy to 98% itself. So at least you can use the automation to help increase the pick accuracy and hence reduce those returns as well. Now, one of the things that I personally have experienced, sometimes like I buy things from Amazon and they tell them that, hey, they gave us the wrong thing or something to that extent. But seeing the trend in the industry of saying, you know what, just keep the product, I'll ship you the next product, because it's actually more costly to process the return than to just give them the right product from a perspective. So we're seeing a little bit of that as well. And the other thing is from automations of returns, Andres, I think that number that you said, I mean, my God, that's a big number. I think, we need to solve that problem. I think there are companies out there that are actually specializing on returns, right? People will outsource to them. You know what, instead of me spending all these dollars doing the return, so why don't I just outsource the return to companies like Toro and so on? And, we are partnering with customers like that, or partners, the solution providers of such, so that, they can also automate and be able to help with the accuracy, productivity, cost reduction, and sustainability as well.
Definitely. No, I think that topic warrants its own webinar at a future date, so we can tackle that in more depth. Michael, just segueing slightly, I'd love to hear your perspective for the folks listening to this that are managing brands. How can companies successfully maintain their customer focus as they're growing, which in turn is obviously forcing them to increase their fulfillment operations and is increasing complexity of those fulfillment operations?
Yeah, so I think first you got to partner with the best. It's something we find best approach to just solving a lot of the things we try to tackle, which is if you go at it alone, you can do a good job, but in today's kind of complexion and market, we find ourselves to be better in aggregate with leveraging the best at what they do. So whether it be, fulfillment operations, it be robotics, it be transportation, we find ourselves to be, better able to operate and scale, leveraging everybody's strengths. So that's kind of the first thing I would say. The second part is you really continue to have the fundamental KPIs and customer priorities. What are the goals you're trying to achieve? Applying some longer term planning and forecasting. Really, when you evolve from the SMB to more enterprise level, it becomes about longer range planning. It becomes less about what's happening the next quarter just to survive and to grow, to what are we going to do in the next 3 to 5 years, and having more strategic decisions and discussions and investments to build the capacity that you're going to need. So really, that's, I think, some of the big fundamentals of how you make that transition. But, stay true to your customer, stay true to the things that have built your brands, that have built the customer value, that drive acquisition, retention, and really work from a long range planning to achieve those, leveraging the best of what they do to support you. That's really kind of an approach.
Perfect. Jeff, I'd love to hear your perspective on what Michael just said.
Yeah, I do agree with what Michael said. It's really important to embrace a culture of growth. Kind of legacy warehousing was you just did the same thing every day. With the rise of omnichannel, with the different verticals of e-com and retail, with the complete evolution of the retail industry, change is constant and change is coming fast. And as a vendor, as a partner to emerging brands, we've had a front row seat. And where we've seen the success is really priding ourselves on being able to run as fast, if not faster, than the customer can. Listening, really hearing where the customer needs to go, and then providing best practice initiatives where you can get there before they can. The days of just reacting to a customer, it's just too late when you react. It really needs to be a proactive approach where you're embracing growth, where you are providing the fuel necessary to empower that brand to be able to grow, to be able to exceed their customers' service level expectations. That's really what it's all about. And Michael keeps going back to, we got to take care of the customer. And then if you take care of the customer by exceeding their expectation when they receive that package or when they walk into that retail store, that fuels the growth. Everything else that we're doing now is incredibly necessary to be able to make sure that we can sustain that growth, that we can get ahead of that growth, and that we can enhance that growth. We never want to be an obstacle. So we want to make sure that we can create, partner with folks like Locus and bring in automation. We can enhance our systems. We can continue to increase our productivity, because we want to make sure that we are providing that fuel that allows great brands like AKA and all of their portfolio brands to continue to grow regardless of how they need to.
Definitely. No, Andres, I'd love to hear your perspective on what Jeff just mentioned around that culture of growth. And I guess what advice would you give to companies as they are going through that growth transition?
Yeah, Nick, and I think Jeff was spot on, right? And the reality is that companies need to focus on their customers, right? And understand their customer needs. And we talk about it at the beginning of the discussion. It's hard to follow a strategy that is about mimicking what others are doing. I think those that are successful have demonstrated that the priority should be on understanding their customers and have that relentless focus on exceeding their expectations. I think Jeff used the term kind of getting there before them, right? And bringing them solutions is paramount. And then some of the other important aspects, right, that we have observed based on our work is the need to have a learning mindset and identify improvement opportunities. We were talking about the returns, right, and how the returns can be a source for learnings. The reality is that many of upstream processes in an organization can materialize on issues that you see in the shop floor, right? And those are going to be learning opportunities. There is one case that has I always find interesting. One company had a very strong customer service focus, and in order to address a spike in demand that they observe at the end of the month, they were relying on temp labor, and because of the scarcity of labor, they were keeping the temp workers hired for the entire month, right? To make sure that they were able to have the capacity at the end of the month. Well, you know what? When looking at the drivers of those spikes in demand at the end of the month and the quarter, it was the sales team that was pulling forward orders to meet their quotas, right? And on one hand, this company was being very focused on customer service, but they were not going deeper, looking at the data and looking at the drivers, and that resulted in a very costly manner to be customer-centric. So one of the key learnings here is leverage data available to ensure that there are learning opportunities captured right from the shop floor that can enable an efficient operation and continue driving growth and focus on customers.
Definitely. Just doubling down on that data, and Michael, you obviously mentioned KPIs earlier. I'd be interested to understand and learn what kind of data and what KPIs are, I guess, you analyzing so that you can improve your fulfillment operations.
Sure. Well, I'm gonna stay true to form. I'm gonna start with the customer. So we start with the most obvious one, right? Is the customer getting the goods when they expected to, right? Because that really is an end-to-end process. So we really obviously baseline on that, and then we really break down all the subcomponents to that, from the time we're transmitting orders to all the core labor productivity metrics that one would look at, whether it's units per hour across the main functions, it'd be the cost per units, it'd be the processing cost, fixed variable cost. And again, like I was saying before, we continue to evolve in terms of how precise we are and how granular we are, and we share it with our partners to make them joint goals. So that's one of the great things about, again, these partnerships is once you set those goals, you can set them as targets, and you can work very directly on the initiatives to drive them. And we've seen a tremendous amount of success doing that. So that's a core part of some of the, I would say, labor productivity ones. We're also looking at, more advanced analytics in terms of, for those core kind of output type KPIs. What are the inputs? Locus has, if you've ever been in a facility that has Locus, there's these big giant panels that have incredible analytics in real time that show you where every associate is, every bot is, their relative productivity, their throughput, density, a variety of other factors that we're going to continue to leverage and continue to operationalize into all the decisions we can make along in the supply chain around where do we put goods, how do we flow goods, reducing pick path, driving the efficiencies, improving safety, a lot of factors. So I think that's where we really kind of continue to go deeper and deeper and optimize. But we've started, again, customer, then we go to the fundamentals. There's always room to improve the fundamentals, right? The name of the game in operation is continuous improvement. We're just getting now more granular details with all these solutions and partners and automation to continue to drive the fundamentals. So that's kind of, I would say, at a high level how we do it.
Definitely. Jeff, would love to hear, I guess, from the logistics service provider's perspective, what KPIs are you analyzing?
Yeah, what Michael brought on was really spot on. This, you can't do this alone. This is a journey that is now one that has to emphasize collaboration and accountability. You have to do what you say, and you have to say what you do. So we set up a bunch of KPIs that could be standard dock to stock, could be standard kind of inventory accuracy, order accuracy, cancellations, things that are certainly going to hold us accountable. What's really important is the transparency, because in order to be really great at what you do, you really do need to be accountable, and you need to be able to learn from your mistakes. You need to be able to get better. You can't be afraid of changing a process. You can't be afraid of making a recommendation to better package on inbound freight or on outbound freight, even if it has an impact on your operation where you have to redesign or revenue may go down. Because at the end of the day, if this isn't a win-win scenario where you're doing well, your customer's doing well, their customer's doing well, that's the best kind of business. And there is a big push now towards AI and BI and data. It's relatively new to the logistics world, but it is a really important driver. We use it every day to plan our labor. We use it every day to chart our productivity. We have to figure out how to do more with less, which means we have to increase our units per hour in order to keep up with some of these rising costs. And so we're looking now at ways that we can use the information that we get from our Locus implementations. We're looking at ways that we can use the dashboards that we're setting up from our small parcel offer. We're looking at ways that we can look at our order profile or our unit profile or the zip codes where freight is going, where we can now collaborate with our customers and make recommendations that are going to be in the best interest of our partnership to make each other's businesses better.
Definitely. Just before we wrap up, Jasmine, I'd love to hear how, the data that Jeff and Michael just mentioned that they're capturing in their facilities, how that data can be used to optimize the customer experience and the operation as a whole.
Yeah, I think Michael mentioned about those gigantic screen, and Jeff gets to see them every day. I think it's exciting there. We provide a lot of visibility and transparency, and we can configure some of the screens that you see on the warehouse floor because it provides visibility. It helps operations utilize business intelligence to optimize and further increase the productivity of the floors itself. Even one of the things from a worker perspective, when we are on site, a lot of our associates always say, how am I doing, right? And in Locus itself, we have this particular gamification feature where they get immediate feedback as they interact with the robots in terms of how they're performing. It makes it a very, I guess more fun environment to say, oh, I'm performing at this particular rate. Am I rated number 1 or number 2 among all the co-workers for that shift? I think gamification helps actually motivate the customers, the associates on the floors itself. I think data is king. And what Jeff and Michael are seeing is our current, visibility into the operations and so on. But we're continuously enhancing on that. Things that we will be providing, and the ability to do that is a little bit more prescriptive of what things needs to be done, right? Utilizing artificial intelligence, utilizing historical data to be able to provide guidance in terms of how, operations can improve and so on. Now, one thing I want to say, just kind of listening to all the panels for the last few minutes there, I think we all have a very similar philosophy about customer. At Locus here, we're very customer-centric around the collaboration, around the partnership, and change is constant. They're coming fast, as Jeff say. We're never going to stop. One of the things prior to this, to the start of the panel, Michael and Jeff and I were talking about, we have to get together, start planning the next phase, right? Because it's always changing. Collaboration and partnership brings up great ideas in terms of what we can do. And at Locus itself, voice of the customer is really important. To be able to listen to what the challenges are and be able to go back to our product management team, our engineering organization, to build and to provide solutions to help our customer be successful. We always say robots are cool, but who doesn't pay the bills, right? So we want to make sure that we are purpose-built and that our robots are providing value on a day-to-day basis to help change the lives of the associates on the floor, help operations be more efficient, reduce costs, increase productivity, service our customers, just like you service your customer is really the core of what we do at Locus as well. And I think it's just so important that, in this circular economy, we all work and collaborate together.
Perfect. And as we wrap up today's conversation, I'd like to ask each of the panelists what excites them about the future of fulfillment operations, starting off with Andres with that one.
Yeah, sure. And look, we start talking about the challenges, right, in the current environment. But when you think about it, there is so much growth in this space, right? It's so exciting, right? Again, thinking that e-commerce penetration only 20% and the growth that is expected in the next 5-10 years is tremendous. And the solutions that we see being implemented in automation, in analytics, gives us the confidence that we are not only going to be able to address those challenges that we talk about, but we are going to be able to capitalize on these significant opportunities, and the ability to collaborate across different participants in the space, I think is going to be critical, and it's also exciting for the future of the space.
Perfect. And Jeff, same question to you. What excites you about the future of fulfillment operations?
Yeah, there's so much. As we say at Ryder, it's a great time to be an associate at Ryder. Really working towards this port-to-door strategy, trying to change and transform supply chain logistics. Challenges and change always happens, but challenges and change create opportunities. And we are seeing very significant growth. We're seeing a change in the retail landscape. And so with that change, it allows us to do really cool, innovative, creative things with world-class partners, with world-class brands, with world-class vendors, to kind of take the supply chain, the legacy supply chain, and stand it on its head and try to figure out how you can do it better, how you can do more with less, how you can get more productive. How do you do battle with these rising costs by just increasing productivity and increasing efficiency? There's so much excitement going on with automation, with system enhancements. We're looking at new technologies every day to try to make our customers better. And so we're just scratching the surface of where we're going. And so this really is a great time to be in supply chain. It's a great time to be in logistics, because this kind of chaos, this kind of challenges does create opportunities, and it's going to make us all better. It's going to make us more effective. It's going to allow us to be more productive in the end. And that's going to lead to much better business.
Perfect. And Michael, same question to you. What excites you about the future of fulfillment operations?
Yeah, I'm going to echo a lot of what Jasmine and Jeff said in some ways, but we've come off a period, obviously, during the COVID lockdowns with great growth in e-commerce, right? And a lot of the name of the game was about capacity and just really being able to maintain the experience we were trying to deliver. Obviously, as broader macro environment has changed, we've got back somewhat to the fundamentals of driving great efficiencies. And what we've seen is the great still runway there is on driving those core efficiencies with some of the tools and capabilities we have today. Leveraging the best-in-class partnerships, their expertise, their capacity, their ability to flex up and down. And then as we've been testing into new capabilities and robotics and automation and systems and tools, we just see how early of days it still is about leveraging those and how much more there is to drive efficiency. So it's been really, I think, a great journey in terms of focusing on pure just growth and capacity to now really adding really the discipline and some of the traditional aspects of efficiency, and still so many new things ahead of us that can continue to drive both of those. So yeah, we're really excited about continuing to drive that great experience, somewhat making operations invisible to the customer, but we're driving high quality efficiencies, capacity, and cost efficiencies. So early days in many of the opportunities we have, and excited about it. And our teams are engaged in it and very excited by it, whether it be our own teams or the partners teams that are on the floor. I think that's another probably important aspect we didn't really talk about. This is the people side. I think they're all now more connected as we've shared the KPIs, that they understand the broader mission, and they're excited about this journey, and they're embracing the end of this test and learn mentality. Let's try new things, and most things are going to hopefully work. Some don't. That's okay. We'll move on and try the next thing. So constant evolution as well.
Definitely. And then last but not least, Jasmine, what excites you about the future of this space?
The automation and digitization of more warehouses, not just in North America, but across the globe. It is a common problem, shortage of labor and hard work. So to me personally, improving the lives of the associates, it's very personal to me. Having worked in a warehouse, as we're doing the implementation, that is hard work. And I think, that is through automation, to driving efficiencies, and even the operators, right? The supervisors and the operations team that are on site with them. We want to help them improve their lives as well through business intelligence, through prescriptive analytics, and so on. And I think that's the way to go. And also, if you think about it, with all this automation, digitization, it actually also creates opportunities of different types of job, leaving the more manual work to automation, and then create a pool of more, skilled workers as well. So that's what excites me.
Excellent. It's a great way to end. My thanks to all of today's panelists for taking the time out of their busy schedules to join us today. And thanks for the audience for taking the time out of their busy schedules to watch this. And I hope to see you all on another Reuters Events webinar very, very soon.
Thank you.